Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about a very important issue, and that is about the terrorism. Terrorism in Afghanistan, and that could lead to the instability of the entire region also. In particular, we are concerned about Pakistan. A lot of activity through TTP, through Baloch rebels and through ISIS and all these splinter groups of the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan and otherwise. They have joined hands, and Pakistan once again has become the target. If you look at the recent past, last 2-3 months, you'll see that these activities have multiplied. Whether you talk about the bomb blast in Karachi University, where three of the teachers of China, and they were here to teach the language perhaps, they were killed along with another civilian from the Pakistani side. Many people got injured in that blast also. If you look at the attacks on the military, the checkpoints, or in the cantonments, it has also increased. Perhaps a lot of casualties have been there. A lot of people from the Pakistan army, they were martyred, including army officers. Now, when we look at the overall issue, and we have always said that we will not tolerate such activities, but as we say, and we believe that Afghan soil is still being used against Pakistan. Whatever the means, whatever the issues are, whatever the problems are, we have always tried to make sure that Afghanistan is stabilized and normal life should begin there. But unfortunately, a lot of problems still prevails there. Let's see where it leads. But one thing for sure is that if the appropriate measures are not taken on time, definitely the fallout factor is going to be inside Pakistan, and this will increase with the passing days. How to put a check to that? What sort of measures do we need to undertake? As we all know now that Khalid is in Pakistan, and he was the man in charge for bringing in peace and stability in that particular area. Now, we will be talking about that, and let me quickly introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio on my right is Shaukat Paracha, senior journalist, senior anchor person. Raza, thank you so much, sir, for your time. And we'll be talking to Brigadier Mahmood Shah Saab, who's a senior analyst. Brigadier Saab, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you very much for your time, sir. Pleasure to have you in the show. And other than Brigadier Saab, we'll be also talking to Rustam Shah Mohammed Saab, who's a former ambassador of Afghanistan. He'll be also joining us in our program. But let me start off from you, Paracha Saab. Whether we talk about the TTP attacks, IS-related attacks, or Baloch rebel attacks, perhaps all these groups, they seem to be very much in alignment when it comes to particularly harming the stability in Pakistan. You talk about soft areas. So Karachi University was a soft area, soft target. You talk about hard targets, military checkpoints, they are the focus of the enemy. And a lot of Jawans, a lot of officers have been martyred so far. So there was a time period when we could say that things were pretty much okay, things were stabilized, but within the last couple of months, things have really changed. We all thought that the Taliban, once they'll take over, perhaps things will be pretty easy for us. But it's the opposite. Your take, sir.
Thank you very much. And indeed, it's a question of very serious concern that Afghan soil is once again being used against Pakistan. Why I say once again, I want to refer to a truce or a ceasefire that Imran Khan government had with the TTP and other terror groups operating from Afghanistan inside Pakistan, and that ceasefire got over on 9th of December. After that, there is a surge in the attacks. The problem is not a new one. The problem is very old one. And when there were Doha talks between the then US administration led by President Trump and the Afghans led by Mullah Abdul Ghani brother, One point that the Afghan Taliban assured and they they guaranteed, and that was that their soil will not be used against any other country, let alone we talk of Pakistan, the being the first neighbor who has always faced the brunt of these terrorist groups. Americans also agreed that yes, if you cooperate in the war in counter-terrorism measures, then it's okay. So this point was agreed by the Afghan Taliban. Only last night, State Department spokesman Ned Price, he also made a statement regarding the telephonic conversation between Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Honorable Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, and the US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken.
Yes.
And talking about this conversation, Ned Price said that both the leaders, they talked about how to face or counter terror emanating from Afghanistan. So it's a serious concern. That concern is genuine and serious. Now, you very rightly pointed out that the military of Pakistan, the Jawans of Pakistan, the officers of Pakistan, the civilians of Pakistan, every day they are facing martyrdom. And secondly, hitting out Chinese national is very sad, and it's not a soft
And
target.
those were professors basically.
It's not a soft target. When the enemies of Pakistan hit out the Chinese citizen, that's a strategic targeting, that you are giving a message to the Chinese that, well, you are not safe in Pakistan, you are no more safe in Pakistan.
And that was a very legitimate concern raised by the Chinese also regarding the security.
That's what I am saying. After Dasu attack, this was the serious most attack, and who were targeted? Teachers who were teaching Chinese language in the Confucius Institute. They were here to train Pakistan, to impart education, and education in my religion, in Islam, has a lot of significance. But those who are imparting teaching to us, education to us, they were targeted. So it's a strategic targeting whenever the Chinese are targeted here. Again, I'll revert back that this is the responsibility of the Afghan Taliban. In the past, we were told during Ashraf Ghani or Karzai period that since 60% of the rate of Afghan soil is not under the government, that's why the refuge.
There were certain pockets.
The refuge of sanctuaries of the terrorism, they were there. But now Taliban claim they have 100% jurisdiction under their control. Faizabad, for example, was not during the previous Taliban regime, but this time Faizabad, they took over Faizabad in the north. Mazar Sharif, these are the first areas to be taken under control. Why not Kunnad? Why not Paktika? Why not Nuristan? Why not the adjoining provinces?
Areas, the bordering areas
exactly, with Pakistan. And you are very right that these terror groups, they have a nexus. They cooperate with each other. They have, their abatter, their financer, their planners who guide them how to operate in unison. So it's a serious concern, and as a citizen of Pakistan, I am concerned very much with this situation.
I totally agree with you, and let's see what Brigadier Saab has to share regarding this. Brigadier Saab, we all know that there is a lot of problem inside Afghanistan. The regime is not being accepted. There are a lot of issues regarding health, regarding education, and that old school of thought, unfortunately, that still prevails in the mind of the Taliban. What I want to know is that, sir, we all thought that perhaps $83 billion worth of equipment, the military hardware, is with the Taliban of Afghanistan. But now it seems that it's not only the Afghan Taliban who ended up getting hold of that equipment. Perhaps a lot of splinter groups have also been able to gather as much as possible. I'll give you one example, sir. When a sniper started shooting on our checkpoint, and they were making a video also, and they were hitting and killing our soldiers, obviously that was something pretty new. And those rifles, perhaps that kind of an equipment was used by the Americans, and then the night vision goggles and so much more. Now, sir, that should have been something to protect Afghanistan. Rather, it's the other way around, sir. That equipment is being used against us. Tell us about that, sir. And secondly, sir, do you believe that at some stage that there is a possibility that the Afghan Taliban or their regime might end up having issues with our government also, whether it's of PTI or PPP or PMLN. At the end of the day, it's the state of Pakistan that matters to us. Brigadier Saab, your take.
Actually, first is the political side that these groups are being financed probably by the US. Notwithstanding the just recently the telephonic conversation between our foreign minister and the other end, I don't think that they have given up on their mission to destabilize, to keep Afghanistan destabilized in this. So one is this aspect. After all, when we talk of this IS, who are these people and where are they getting funded from? So that's one reason. The second is that we are used to the Taliban of Mullah Omar time. That's not the case now. Mullah Omar was one commander who, whatever he would promise, he would deliver on it, and nobody in the Taliban movement could really do anything else than what he would convey. Whereas now there is that sort of powerful leadership is not available in the Taliban government. The person who has replaced this Mullah Omar, Mullah Habatullah Durrani, he's never heard if he has given in. Similarly, whatever the government is there, Mullah Ehsan Akhund, who is the Prime Minister, he is never heard. So actually the Taliban groups which are in the area, they are operating as per their own perceptions and other things. And therefore the Taliban government cannot deliver on its promise that Afghanistan style will not be used against neighboring countries. We see particularly in KP that the area which is affected most belongs to Haqqani group. Or Haqqani, we know they have been operating to Northwestern, and know some people sitting there who are TTP, they are not prepared to take action against them. So that's where the problem is. And I think on our side also, there is a little, I would say, no centrality in the policy. Or probably this policy will come up a little later, that if we become tough with the Afghanistan on the border, tough in the sense that all the state machinery and policies have to be directed towards this end. For example, this area of Haqqani is dependent on Pakistan for rations and medicals and everything from Pakistan.
That's correct.
When we had the last sort of where we had about 3-4 casualties and some officers getting martyred. On the second day, you found the Ghulam Khan border being opened for trade. Why? Why should we open this trade? Why should we really apply our pressure against this particular tribe, which is Zadran? Haqqanis are Zadran, and we know where do they live in Pakistan. So the pressure must be there on the border, and the pressure must be here. Only then they will understand that language. Because if we are left at the goodwill of Taliban government, then probably we will be nowhere. So as far as Pakistan is concerned, I think we have to have Taliban specific policies at the border and implement it as such. The second is that should we, at the border at least, we can show some aggression for a limited depth. I won't say that we should ever go into Afghanistan to really sort out these people, but to limit it, then our reaction should be.
But Brigadier Saab, I'll just quote something here. So the Afghan Defense Minister, he has warned against invasion of Afghanistan by the neighboring countries. He was referring to Pakistan, and this was in the pretext of the sort of air raid that was conducted in the eastern Afghanistan. You think, sir, that was the right and appropriate sort of a decision taken by the government to conduct that operation, or perhaps the real issue still remains the same, rather it has escalated further?
I think that was only a knee-jerk sort of response. That at the spot it was thought that you go and bomb a certain area in the close vicinity of things. I think there should be a proper response. If we have to respond, then it must be really biting response. In fact, Pakistan has been answering to this question that with the Afghanistan government, the Taliban government, will they not spread this menace to the neighboring countries? And we were assuring various people, including Russia and Central Asian republics, that no, they are nice people and they would not do that. But they are doing it with Pakistan. They are doing it with Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan also retaliated in that fashion when they were targeted in that area. So really they are not really serious, and the one which who are opposite Waziristan, they have their own policy, and their federal government or central government never said anything. So I think we have to get tough, not only we, but other people, and we should stop educating their cause anything further. I mean, this happened at the time that we were having the Organization of Islamic Countries conference at Islamabad. And there was an attack immediately after that in North Waziristan against the border post, and we had these casualties. So I think we have to get really serious at the border, not let these people come all the way to and reach up to Karachi and through Balochistan. We should know that the people who are behind the efforts, the people who are providing them all assistance, they are damn serious. There is no question of taking this easily, and you can only stop this at the border. And be very tough. I mean, there is...
All right, Brigadier Sahab, I'll just get back to you. Let me also engage Paracha Saab now. Paracha, you heard what Brigadier Sahab said. I remember when General Kiani was the Chief of Army Staff, during that time when the operation in Sawat was launched, I remember Brigadier Sahab, before the meeting, we were there, a lot of journalists were there as well. And Brigadier Sahab was practically the advisor at that time to the Chief. There were people in favor, there were people against it, because it was time of harvesting and so much more was happening, if you remember. Now, sir, let me, because Brigadier Sahab believes that, well, tough measures should be taken. Let's not show them a very soft corner. Enough is enough. Because if you will kill my man, so we will retaliate. Simple as that. This is how army looks at various options. My question to you, sir, if you remember on the 15th of August when Kabul fell, within the next 48 hours, our DGSI, the then DGSI, General Faiz Hamid, was in Kabul, along with our other delegation members. And interestingly, when somebody had put this question to him, he in fact, in a very jolly mood, with a smile on his face, said, well, everything is going to be just fine. That in fact gave us an impression, rather everybody an impression, that now things will be so fine for us. Because Indians were really crying out at that time. They said, well, we had no connection with the Taliban, so we have been left out from every decision that is taken now, and Pakistan is going to secure a very strong position. And now what all they were up to through Afghanistan, via Afghanistan in Pakistan, we thought that this is going to come to an end. Later on, sir, General Saab was sent to Peshawar as a corps commander. Today I heard something, and I want to quote, because it went live on air when the last question was asked about General Faiz Hamid to none other than the former President Mr. Asif Ali Sardar. He said, Faiz Hamid khudde line lag gaya. This is exactly what he said. What I'm saying is, when your corps commander of the most important corps, which is supposed to look after the affairs in that particular part, if a politician is giving that kind of a statement, sir, do you think that is going to encourage or discourage the military? Number one. And secondly, now what?
I think political, discourse apart, I'll focus more on what more now, because that's the serious question. That's a fundamental question. And as Brigadier Saab has very rightly and very timely stated, that these things should not be taken easy. That's the whole thing. And Brigadier Saab is very right, very, very right, absolutely right, that we have to strictly manage this border and check these people, not in Karachi, not in Lahore, not in any other city, but on the border. That remain the fundamental question. That remain the fundamentals of the fundamental policy, in fact, that these people, look, 90% of the fencing has been done on Pak-Afghan border, and 52 billion rupees, huge cost that this.
But what difference has it made, sir? Still, we see people coming in from that part of the border, attacking our soldiers. I mean, everything is the same.
Just compare 10 years back, how they used to come to Peshawar or Lahore or other parts of the country. Is there the situation now? Are they allowed to reach up to Lahore, for example? Nowadays, what the terrorists across the border they are doing, they come on our border and they fire from within Afghan soil, and they fire on the security forces or checkposts, Pakistan is still taking restraints. You said, that there was aerial bombing, and Brigadier Saab rightly termed that was a knee-jerk reaction. Because if you see the blood and if you see your companion,
obviously,
15, obviously you have to react. You are human being, you are human being. But there is no policy by the government of Pakistan so far, which can be termed as a hot pursuit policy. What Defense Minister of Afghanistan was referring, Pakistan never had any intention to invade Afghanistan. Pakistan will be the last country to invade Afghanistan.
Sir, but we expected such sort of statements from the previous Afghan governments, but not this government. We thought Taliban regime is going to be very friendly.
He did not took the name of Pakistan. He
neighboring country.
Neighboring countries, could be many others, there are many other countries. There was stone pelting across, the Iranian consulate, for example. So there are in the north, to the north of Afghanistan, there are also many countries. So not particularly that he talked about Pakistan, number one. Number two is, if I believe that 40-year violence, 40-year bloodshed, and look at the generation today in Afghanistan. If someone is of 60 year of age, in 1980 he must be 20 year of age, okay? And the young men of 20 year of age in Afghanistan, they have all seen violence.
Throughout their life.
They have all grown up with bombs and bullets, fire and dead bodies, killings, death and destruction, you see. So it's nothing new for them. It's very astonishing for me and you, for Brigadier Saab and for other people who are sitting in the cities in Pakistan or elsewhere. But those who have been fighting, who have been targeted, it is nothing for them. So instead of pursuing a hot policy, hot pursuit policy, the right thing is prevail upon them. More diplomatic efforts, more reach out to them, more convincing arguments with them, For example, when there was a ceasefire and our side, our government, the then government was very excited to have a dialogue with them. Even at that time, we were saying that you are giving them an opportunity to reorganize, and they did reorganize themselves.
In fact, yes.
They did reorganize themselves in 2 months, and that was the result, that there was escalation in attacks. Hot pursuit policy will never serve, If Afghanistan could be conquered, then it could have been conquered by the world heaviest machinery, latest war machinery. The Soviets would have never withdrawn. The NATO, ISAF would have never withdrawn, you know. So, imposing war on Afghanistan is not going to yield any results. What Brigadier Saab suggested is the right course of action. We should manage our border. We should strengthen more and more our border management, and at the same time we should also set our own house in the order, you know. Whatever is happening from the political dissidents or those who are angry with Pakistan, there has been a need to talk to them, to convince them, you know, along with obviously whosoever takes, you know, law into their hand, the law has its own course to do. But strengthening Afghan border has been a need of the hour, and border management will remain need of the hour, instead of you know, thinking to follow a hot pursuit policy.
All right, now we have also been joined by Masood Khalid Saab, former ambassador. Khalid Saab, Assalamu alaikum. Yes, sir, I hope everything is good at your end, sir. If you could speak a little louder,
Thank you so
sir.
very much.
Yeah. Now, Masood Khalid Saab, since we are talking about the Afghan-Pakistan border issue, we are talking about the allegations put by the Afghan defense minister in Pakistan that as if we have invaded Afghanistan because of the airstrike that was conducted about a few weeks ago. At the same time, sir, now this excessive number of attacks that we have seen on our military, on civilian targets as well, sir. So Pakistan has shown a very legitimate concern, not for the first time, for the last many years. We all thought Afghan government, the current one I'm talking about of the Taliban, this regime, let's say, is going to be friendly, and perhaps all those handlers of the terrorists, whether from India or United States of America, you know, they won't be able to operate the way they used to. But sir, things haven't changed. First of all, your point of view, sir, the reason for that, and now the future course of action that we need to undertake.
Thank you. I think the situation in Afghanistan is quite worrisome. In fact, we were hoping that after the takeover by Taliban in August last year, things would, you know, gradually settle down and would stabilize. But that has not happened. In fact, their internal policies have also, you know, created a lot of furor and unrest within the society. The latest, you know, decree which has been issued on the women and the education of women and children, girls. I mean, these are policies which are not earning any goodwill for Taliban within the international community. Now, Pakistan has all along, you know, counseled and advised Taliban to sort of follow those policies, or at least, you know, do a minimum bit to come up to the expectations of the international community, so that they have international legitimacy, so that more aid flows. You know, Afghanistan is facing this humanitarian crisis. That should be the priority of the current government in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, so instability in a way continues, and I was reading the other day that although not very robust or successful or whatever, but in the Panjshir Valley also there has been some kind of, you know, clashes between the Panjshiri group of the son of Shah Masood and Taliban. So I mean, these are pockets of instability. Now, as far as Pakistan-Afghanistan relations are concerned, we have shown a lot of restraint. We have been very patient. But look at that, instead of, you know, containing this problem of repeated and frequent attacks on our soldiers, on our troops across the border, we have seen, you know, that Taliban have not really moved to sort of contain this problem, to neutralize those elements which are causing this problem for Pakistan on the border with with Pakistan. I think the reason is you did ask me for the reason. Reason is, I think, the kind of ideological, you know, affinity and the identity of views between Taliban and the other militant groups, I mean Al-Qaeda and this ISIS, which is a very dangerous combination. It could be very lethal, and the whole international community is worried and concerned that if Afghanistan does not stabilize, then there can be a spillover of terrorism. I mean, China wants to help Afghanistan. China wants to play that role. Pakistan wants to help. Pakistan and China want to bring Afghanistan into CPAC so that the process of economic development accelerates. But unfortunately, the Afghan policies are not responding to these gestures and these overtures. On the other hand, we see these statements by the
But Masood Khalid Sahab, whether the Taliban regime makes it a compulsion for a woman to wear a burqa, sir, that's their problem. Whether they want to educate their youth, that's their problem. That has got nothing to do with it. We should not interfere in their personal or cultural issues, number one. That is perhaps my point of view, sir. Everybody has a right to disagree. My point is that at least our border should be safe. There should be no cross-border terrorism. Indians and the Americans, sir, unfortunately throughout, for the last, I think 40 years plus, sir, ever since I've been reading about it, sir, we have always learnt one thing, that there is an external hand, Beruni Hath, bordering country, neighboring country. Sir, why can't we pinpoint? You have presented a dozen dossiers to UN, to the American President XYZ, sir, that see, India is involved. Sir, is America involved? Is CIA involved? What Zalmay Khalilzad is doing in Pakistan today, sir? He doesn't hold that position, if I'm right, sir?
Yes.
Is he holding it or no?
No.
So in what capacity is he visiting Pakistan? Because basically he's an Afghan as well. So, I mean, don't you think these questions need to be addressed, sir?
I agree with you. You see, my point was not. Let me conclude. My point was not that we should interfere in Afghanistan's internal affairs, but when we say that Afghan policies should be such so as to evoke international sympathy, so as to evoke international assistance, humanitarian relief. Now, how is that possible if a Taliban government adopts regressive policies within its own territory and also does not maintain semblance of peace and tranquility on the border with a country which is trying to help them? Pakistan is trying to help them. So I agree with you that we should not only do robust border management, and I think this fencing which we have done was a very visionary step taken by Pakistan, and that will help greatly in sort of managing our borders. We should ensure more stricter controls on our border. This is our sovereign right also. But at the same time, we should engage in dialogue with the Taliban and try to persuade them in a friendly, sort of conversation that look, these policies are not in their interest also, and those agencies and those foreign elements which are taking advantage of the turmoil in Afghanistan to create problems for Pakistan in terms of terrorism and sabotage, they should be contained, they should be checked, this should stop. Even China is concerned, that this ETIM does not create problem in its territory. Central Asian republics are concerned that this militancy does not, spill over into their territory. So this is a mutual concern. We all want Afghanistan to be peaceful, stable, and gradually, sort of come into the mainstream. And that is where Pakistan's interests also converge with other like-minded countries and friends. And Pakistan wants peace, stability.
Sir, we should be very clear about our national interest. That comes first. Forget about the other countries, sir. As we all said, let's put your own house in order first and then think about the rest. Now, coming to you, Brigadier Saab. Sir, I'll just read out something and I'm going to put a question, sir. According to this story, it says, well, the Taliban TTP was always there, sir. And the Taliban gave TTP de facto political asylum, interestingly. And now the TTP has used its improved political status in Afghanistan to step up cross-border terrorism and to target and bleed Pakistan. Sir, is it the capacity issue of the Afghan Taliban to go against them? Is it the will? Or perhaps the Afghan Taliban still believe that TTP is in one way or the other a part of them? Brigadier Saab.
True. In fact, our policy also, we have been wavering. Wavering in the sense that I totally agree with this gentleman who was just talking, Masood Saab, that we should have negotiation with the Afghan Taliban. And we should follow on to those negotiations and impress upon them the importance of this issue. Whereas they told us that why don't you have some negotiation with them? And our government policy so weak that we agreed to have negotiation with them. So we are not clear in our mind as to what should we be doing. The negotiation with the TTP is totally out because they are not a legitimate ruler of any area. But Afghan Taliban are legitimate rulers, and we should talk to them. They lack certain centrality of their policy, and it is being dictated by the regional forces. For example, I told you Haqqanis, and if you go towards Quetta, Chaman side, those are the Kandahar Taliban. And it is to be impressed upon them that the central government should lay down the policy, and these people should, and we should never agree to any negotiation with the TPP. This is our last sort of thing, that we are not going to talk to them, and you either sort them out yourself, otherwise we are going to sort them out. And I think Pakistan has the capability, Pakistan has means to really bring discipline to them, but we should know the problem and we should stick to a strict policy. And it's not only a military action to be taken against them. I would say that you stop the supplies. Why should the border of Chaman be open for their supplies? Why should the border of Ghulam Khan be open for their supplies? Their complete area up to Ghazni and surrounding area is dependent on rations and other things from Pakistan, and that border has to be closed till such time that they provide sort of assurance that these things will not happen, and only then they can be forced, I think. So we should be very clear about our policies. We should have zero tolerance for anybody interference into our country.
Do you think, Brigadier Saab, that is going to work well? This particular formula that you're talking about, it's going to be worth trying?
Yes, it is the way that you control tribes. It is the way. It is not that it should be some other people with beard and they come and they say they respect Pakistan government and they are very sorry, and then they have a jirga and the jirga decides that the border should be open. But who is that jirga? Who cannot assure you that nothing like this will happen? And they will only get this sort of thing message that when you say okay, nothing goes onto that side, no business, we are not interested in this. There are people in Peshawar, they are saying this business between Afghanistan and Pakistan is 4 billion and it is not 2 billion now. They are the ones who are creating problems. They are the ones who should be told in clear terms that if there is any interference into Pakistan territories, the borders will be closed. There will be no business. We are not bothered about this.
Now, you have raised a very important point, Brigadier Saab, and let me put this question to Paracha Saab. Paracha Saab, the TTP, the Taliban, to me they are the same. You know why I'm talking about the Afghan Taliban? Because when you talk to the Afghan Taliban to make sure that their soil should not be used against Pakistan or this particular group should be handled, they say that, you know, it's not our duty, it's your duty to look after the grievances of the TTP. So it seems as if they don't want to. Forget about the capacity, sir. As they say, where there is a will, there is a way. The will seems to be missing. Correct?
I mean, it's not.
Sir, because you have travelled in that area. And
it's not only missing, rather they have been claiming that we wanted to have a truce between TTP and government of Pakistan. Their spokesmen and their ministers, even Mullah Mir Khan Muttaqi was here in Islamabad, and this question was put to him.
Okay.
And he responded honestly or frankly, whatever you want to use, and he said, we want that TTP and the Pakistani government, they should have a peace agreement with each other. So their position is very clear. It's not that it seems to you or seems to me.
It is.
It is, it is. Now, the options are, this closure of border has been tried many times before. On one hand, we are urging the world constantly that please avert any humanitarian crisis inside Afghanistan, because we
Why
fear,
to be a part of that?
Because we fear that then if there is hunger and if the humanitarian crisis aggravates over there, then again there will be influx of refugees towards Pakistan.
Correct.
And for example, if 10,000 or 15,000 human beings, they are sitting across our border and our border is closed, even then will not be acceptable by many Pakistanis even, because of the proximity across the border. Shinwari is over there, Shinwari is over here, Afridi is over there.
It's a porous border, we understand, yeah.
And secondly, the division of the tribes, one tribe here, some relatives over there. So will not very difficult, will not be acceptable, because then our own stance, for example, we are allowing India to transport on our land route 50,000 metric tons of wheat for Afghanistan. This is against the Pak-Afghan trade agreement, but still because of the humanitarian crisis, we have agreed, and many of the shipments, they have already been transported from Wagah to Torkham, you see. So the options for Pakistan, that if there are many, they are at the same time very limited. The option for Pakistan, I repeat, are many. For example, we can have airstrike, we can have hot pursuit policy, we can close our borders, we can do this or that. But at the same time, the problems because of these measures will again be faced by us. If we bomb them, no problem, if 1 million Afghans have been killed by the enemy's, invaders, and if 5,000 more are killed at your hand, God forbid me to say, then again, you will be considered by Afghans among those who have been killing Afghans, which has not been the policy. Somehow Pakistan has opposed that there is no military solution of Afghan crisis. Pakistan has always stood, whether it was the People's Party government, it was PMLN government or PTI, there has been consistency in policy of Pakistan, telling the external world, convincing the American, the other forces, that military solution is not the solution of Afghan crisis. And should we also follow that policy, even if the Afghan Taliban.
Do you think there is going to be some sort of a change regarding Afghan policy, since the government is new now? Bilawal Bhutto Zardari being the youngest foreign minister, he most likely will be visiting America, and I'm sure Afghan issue is going to be one of the hot topics there as well, sir.
Afghan issue was discussed during the phone call, the terrorism especially, the security situation was discussed.
So this do more mantra again is going to be in place?
No, actually do more mantra, when we say we are the victims, and the world is witnessing that now they are.
So the Western world doesn't think you are the victim. They still look upon you as a terrorist state. Honestly speaking, when you listen to them, the kind of tone, language, the words they use, they blame Pakistan.
They are the same people who are sitting there for the last 20 years. But now the Americans are no more there. Now the Western forces are no more there. So saying that they were being targeted, then they were saying
Americans have very clearly blamed Pakistan.
That's what I'm saying.
The intelligence agencies of Pakistan for their own failures in Afghanistan.
No, epicenter of terror, epicenter of terror, Pakistan was labeled. But you know, if they have not changed their policy by a policy of seeking a military solution, they would not have withdrawn. Please try to understand. They changed their policy. Pakistan did not change its policy. It was the other countries.
All right, sir.
They
So
withdrew, you know, they pulled out their troops from over there.
but anyway, sir, I think we will definitely do a couple of more shows on this particular topics as the story develops. But thank you very much, Paracha Saab, for your presence. Brigadier Saab, thank you so much, sir, for your presence as well. And it was a pleasure having you in the show. Masood, Khalid Saab, thank you very much. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you again tomorrow at 8:05 p.m. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.